Hey, this is Adriel Wiggins with Adriel Wiggins Author Services and Consulting. And today with me, I have J Leigh Bralick. She is an RN by day and a fantasy young adult or author the rest of the time. She's an avid learner and fully embraces the philosophy of living life to the fullest. She's a dedicated student of Krav Maga and was also a competitive fencer and saber. Welcome. How are you
Thanks.
today, Jen?
I am exhausted, but I'm happy to be here.
Good. All right. So I read Chaos Beneath the Night, and this is a fantasy world that, in our world's terms, is pretty much heaven and hell are set up to guard the earth so that chaos doesn't eat the earth, right? And so we've got all these good and bad characters, but they're all trying to protect the earth and keep it safe,
Right,
right?
right.
And there's a little bit of a multi-timeline going on. We follow a character from each of the areas. And
Mhm.
I'm really loving it. My only problem is that it's in episodes and they're not done yet. There
I
aren't
know.
enough of them.
I have the same problem.
So tell me how you came up with the idea of Chaos Beneath the Night.
Um, I actually honestly I started off as a nano project back, I want to say 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And I don't even remember how I originally came up with the idea. I think I was like, I imagined this character who could only appear in shadows and, trying to interact with a human, but they couldn't move beyond, darkness or shadow. So that was kind of like the germ of the whole thing.
Right.
And then, okay, well, let's move beyond that. What if there were characters who couldn't touch shadow, couldn't touch darkness? And, so you have these beings who exist in their own dimensions, I guess you could say,
Right.
but then they can interact with the human world, but only within specific elements. And so it just kind of, I don't really know how it generated from there, but I know that I actually pitched the idea at Superstars last year,
Yeah.
and they were really interested in the story, but they had like a page length that they wanted us to follow. So I was sitting there trying to figure out how I could condense the storyline that I wanted to tell into that page length. And I was like, every time I tried to shrink it down, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, well, I don't want to write another, 500-page novel, because that's what I
Right.
do with my other series. And I wanted something shorter. So I'd heard somebody say something about writing serials. And I was like, well, it sounds like fun. I'll try that,
Yep.
So, but yeah, Emery was the first character that I came up with. He was kind of the inspiration for the whole thing.
Mhm.
And then the Atan and Therai just kind of appeared in the story without me kind of really planning them. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's a really neat interaction, and I can't wait to have the episode where they all three meet. And
Right. I,
yeah,
I
so
can't wait for that either. So, go ahead and
thank you.
write it. I won't protest.
I'm working on it.
So I really enjoyed this, and now I'm going to go dig into some of your other series. But I can't wait to see what else you write in this
Oh,
series.
I appreciate that.
So, excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, I'm completely over COVID except for the cough. I mean, that's all
Oh,
I have
no.
left. It's not a big
Oh.
deal, right? It's really only an issue when I'm trying to record anything. So
Oh,
that's
no.
great. All right. So into the standard questions. Which
Mhm.
author wasn't your greatest inspiration, but made you think, maybe I could be an author?
Mm. So I think for me it was either Ursula Le Guin or Mary Stewart, because I kind of started reading both of their series around the same time. I was a teenager,
Mhm.
and so Mary Stewart's Merlin trilogy, and then Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea
Mhm.
sequence. And I fell in love with Mary Stewart in particular, because she was, I think, the first author that I'd ever read where um, it was like a serious fantasy story told from first person perspective, and that was kind of my first venture into writing, was with first person point of view. And I was just so enraptured by how she captured this legendary mythical figure, and like got inside his head, and I was like,
Right.
I want to do that. And then Ursula Le Guin, who is a master of like storytelling in such a concise way, which is not me at all. Usually, I don't do the super concise storytelling, but I just fell in love with, the worlds that she built and just so effortlessly, and I was like,
Mhm.
I want to create worlds that are like that. And that just allowed me to sail away and experience things that, I would never have imagined otherwise. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I read that Ursula Le Guin series in, like, a week. Yeah.
Yeah,
I tend to do
they're
that,
so
like
short. I recently reread them and I couldn't believe like how how seriously condensed
mhm,
those stories because like I said, my books are generally not, chaos, but the other ones are generally very big. And
mhm.
so it's like I was rereading and I was like, oh my goodness, she conveys so much in so few words.
So few. Yeah.
It's amazing. So
Master storyteller.
yeah, just the moods that evoke. So yeah.
So, what was the oddest part, or sorry, that is the wrong question. Tell me about the first time you thought, "Wow, I'm a real author."
Oh my gosh, it was really one of the coolest experiences of my life. I still kind of it feels really surreal to me. I've done Dallas Comic Con or Fan Expo or whatever you want to call it for a few years now. And then I hadn't been so I went 1 year and I think I just had my Lost Road series out, which is my young adult, and I'd been selling those that first year. And then I didn't go for like a couple years and then I went back and I had some more books to sell and it was like the last day of the con and I was wandering around and I got back to my table and had some other authors there and they're like, you had a fan looking for you. And I was like,
What?
I have a fan. What are you talking about? And then they pointed out this girl who was down the aisle and she like said, oh, that was her right there. And she turned around and saw me and she was so excited and like came running over and like gave me this huge hug. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a fan. We got a picture together and so that it was really surreal and I still can't believe that
Yeah.
happened. How do you know me? How do you remember me? And yeah, that was exciting.
So, what's the oddest part about your routine that you simply must do in order to sit down and write?
So two things. Those are the kind of strange. I have to have my hair up.
Mhm.
So like literally either a pony or preferably a bun. It just has to be
Yes.
completely off my head. And I have to have my contacts in because I feel like if I'm wearing my glasses, I can't be productive. And I don't know why it is. But so yeah, I sit down, I have to get my hair up and my contacts in and then I can feel like I can be productive. So and generally, sometimes I have to have music playing, or at least initially to get me kind of in the mood or
The
in the
grove.
mindset, right? I usually have like specific songs. I like, oh, this is the mood of the scene that I want to write or whatever, and then I usually turn it off when I start to write. But
Mhm.
it just kind of gets me in that mindset of, oh, this is what I'm going to work on today. So
Right? That makes sense. A
yeah,
lot of authors use, music to get in the right into the groove.
yeah, yeah.
I don't. I like,
Yeah,
the music distracts me and I can't do it.
yeah. I totally get that. I love music. It's a huge part of my life. So I often find that it pretty much any scene that I write, I have kind of a soundtrack in my head for anyway. And
Mhm.
so trying to find music that actually exists that matches kind of what I'm imagining, it can be
Right.
challenging, but I found some go-to composers and albums and things like that really they're like soundtrack style music and
Right.
it's good stuff. So, but then usually once I start writing, I turn off everything and I have to have silence and then when I go to edit, it's put the music back on. And I hope you can't hear my dog is over there chewing a bone and it's like crackling really loudly and I'm like
Now we all know what the crackling is. Thank you.
I can't get her to go away. So
Mm.
she's
So, what's your biggest writing obstacle?
um time.
Well,
So
you're an RN and you said you're in the National Guard.
yeah, stay guard. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Yeah. It's like this
those both take a lot of time.
they do, and I have, other commitments as well, and it's just like, lately, the last few months, it's just been, I work my shifts, and then the days that I don't, I have, like, classwork or things that I need to do for my nursing education,
Right.
and then I'm just exhausted, and so it's, like, trying to get into a mental space. I've also had a lot of, like, emotional ups and downs lately, so
Mhm.
trying to get into the headspace where I feel like I can be creatively productive, it's
Right.
just been it's been a challenge. So I have all of this percolating story ideas, and I just can't. Like, if I have time, I'm like, oh, I just need to sleep. And then if
Right.
I'm being trying to be productive, I'm like, well, I have to do laundry, I have to clean, I have to all of
Yes.
those real life things that are like, oh yeah.
Yes. All of those things that got put on my schedule for this week while my kids are gone. I'm like, I'm gonna
Right.
clean the house. I'm gonna finish writing that book. I'm gonna get it all done because I won't have kids,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Whatever.
So,
um,
and it's
so
really guilt inducing too, because I have some readers that are like, oh, when is the next book or the next, episode or whatever coming out? And especially for the books, it's like my Madness Method series. I've been writing book 4 for about 2 years, and between moving across country twice and new
yeah,
jobs, and yeah, I just feel really, really guilty. Like, not yet.
don't feel too guilty. I mean, like authors are allowed to have lives. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like I'm not producing as fast as I should. Yeah.
So, how do you prefer to network, and what impact do you think those avenues have had on your sales?
Um, Definitely I love going to live events for both readers and fellow authors. Um, Going to like Dallas Comic Con has been like the highlight of probably my writing career. Just I love interacting with potential readers and other creative people who are there, selling goods or whatever. And it's a lot of fun, like to learn how to talk about your book in a way that's like, oh, well, what's your book about? And it's like, okay, well, I could read you the back of it, but that's not what you want to hear,
Yeah, not at all.
So, so just doing that kind of thing is really, really rewarding to me. I used to be really active on Twitter. But Twitter got kind of weird, and I got really tired of it. So, but for a while, and it always seemed like I was just networking with other writers,
Mhm.
so not necessarily people who would go out and buy my book. It's like they might be like, oh, what a cool aesthetic that you created, but they're not going
Right,
to like go and use it to make a sales decision or a purchase decision. So
right.
um but yeah, I love going to writers conferences as well. That's just, it's so much fun. I missed that so much last year with all the COVID, everything going on. Is like just having a chance to interact in person with other writers and people who are geeky the same way that I am. So I definitely miss that. But Facebook groups are great for readers and writers. But I have just such limited time for
Yes,
social media.
yes.
So
Refer to the earlier question. No time.
yeah, exactly.
So, what's one mistake you've made in your publishing career that you'd like to warn other authors off of?
Well, I would say there's my first book that I published, Down a Lost Road, which is the first book in my young adult series. It was kind of a mistake, but at the same time, I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't made it.
Right.
So it was I had gone to a writing workshop. It was actually with Dave Farland.
Mhm.
It was the first writing workshop that I'd ever been to, and I was actually workshopping a different story altogether. But when I got out of that, I was like, oh, I have this manuscript that I've been sitting on, and it's mostly finished. Probably wouldn't take a whole lot of work to just polish it up and send it off. And so I took some time, made sure the story mostly made sense, and edited it and all that stuff, and slapped a really, really bad cover on it. And I'm like, I'm ready to go. and and for a while I was like, doubting and hesitating. And then I just realized that if I didn't do it, if I didn't just, hit publish, that I would never. I tried to go through the traditional route, but I really wanted more control over the final story and everything like that. And also quicker process,
Right.
because the traditional process it can be so drawn out. And I was like, you know what, I want to do this now, and I really want to get going on it. And I still, even with that attitude, I still hesitate because it's so scary.
Right.
But I was like, if I don't do it, if I don't just hit publish, it's never going to happen. I'm going to be scared for the rest of my life. So
Right.
I published it, and there was a lot that I still needed to learn about storytelling.
Yes.
And I found out fairly quickly there were some readers who absolutely loved it, and there were some who gave it scathing reviews.
Mhm.
And for a while I was like, that's ridiculous. It's great the way it is. And then I studied some more and learned some more and got more mentorship, and I was like, yeah, the story kind of really needs some help.
Not
not not nearly as good as I thought it was. So I actually went through and published some revised editions,
right.
and now and now it is in a state that I actually am really happy with, and I love the story and everything. But so it's kind of a mixed bag, you know. It's like, okay, there's the um, get multiple perspectives on your book before you publish it instead of
Right.
just relying on your own. Oh, I love it, so it must be perfect. Right?
Exactly.
So if you actually get, you know, some good quality feedback on your writing before you publish, but at the same time, it's like, if it's going to be an obstacle that you never overcome and it's holding you back from starting an adventure, you know, like basically
Right.
the writing adventure, then it's not worth it. You know, in a sense,
Mhm.
you can always fix things, you
Right.
know, and it takes a lot of work, and I'm still like struggling with, oh, but this book still has pretty average ratings because of those early reviews and everything like that. But I don't regret that, because I would never have written anything else if I
Right.
hadn't gone for
Right.
it. So
A lot of people get stuck
mhm.
in the fear that it's never going to be perfect, so they never click
Exactly.
publish. And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
then it's languishing there doing nothing.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
even earning a meager income. It's
Right,
doing
exactly.
nothing.
Exactly.
So
And you never get that feedback where you're like, "Oh, yeah, that they're right, actually, these readers are right, and I
right.
should pay attention." I mean, not always, sometimes I've gotten reviews where I'm like, "Yeah, you completely missed the point of that."
Yes.
And I just, "Okay, you're not my reader," and I'll just, you know, move on,
Right. But
but
actual
sometimes
qualified real feedback is a
mhm,
good thing.
yeah, very good thing. So definitely find beta readers, find editors, you know, developmental editors, all of those things, but don't let the fear of, you know, not being perfect hold you back from
Right.
just going for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, is there any advice you'd like to give to a new writer?
Mm, I think I would say write the stories that are in your heart. There's always going to be pressures and like, oh, I have to write to, you know, this is the current hot trend or whatever.
Right.
But if you don't love what you're writing, it's going to show, and readers aren't going to appreciate that.
Right.
So I always say, you know, you have the stories that you want to tell, and there are readers out there for those stories. So love what you write, and write first and foremost for yourself, because if you're not happy with it, what you're writing, then what's the point, you know? um
Right.
so, and then just write, you know. Don't give up, don't stop, and you know, try to make time for it every day. Or as often as you can. um but yeah, I mean, just be committed to learning the craft and getting better, because in the end, you know, the only way we get better at any skill is by practicing.
Right.
And if you don't try and just go for it, then you're always going to be, you know, stuck in the status quo where you are, and not satisfied with what you're producing. So
Right. So, what are you currently reading
in
in all your free time? You know,
all my free time.
yes.
Well, let's see. I read a class on yeah. I've been doing a lot of nursing education lately, but when I when I have time to read, I just read Mark Lawrence's Red Sister,
Mhm.
and it's the first Mark Lawrence book that I've read, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good, and I was kind of skeptical, so I didn't know what to expect, but it was really really good. Um, and then on like kind of the flip side, Megan Whalen Turner just released the last volume of her Queen's Thief series, which I've been like in love with for so
Yes.
long.
Yes.
I treasured every page of that book. It was so good. So I finished that one recently. I haven't picked up a new one since I finished reading that one, but
Yeah. That one was a long time coming. I was
oh, it
ready
was
for
a
it.
it makes me feel better about my 2 years. Yeah.
Have the next question is, have any super fans
Mm.
found you yet? But you've already said in your when you felt like a real writer that someone
Yeah.
found you at a conference. So,
Yeah.
um, did did that seem surreal to you?
Very surreal. It still feels surreal to me. And I have a couple other, pretty hardcore fans who've like, asked me questions on Goodreads and,
Mhm.
um, send me, questions on my Facebook page, like, oh, how is it going? When are you going to release this next book or whatever? Um, and some of my newsletter subscribers as well who will, respond to my newsletter and things like that. And
Mhm.
so it's always really, really gratifying. And I love hearing from readers, especially when they like are as excited about my characters as I am. So it's really that's just it's really special to me. It's like, oh, we can share and kind of geek out about my
My
characters.
stuff?
It feels kind of weird, but I love it. It's like, oh my gosh, it feels like we have a mutual friend and we can talk
Right.
about them. Yes, it's great.
When people read your books, what do you want their greatest takeaway to be?
Mm. It's such a tricky question. I'm kind of been thinking about this for a while now. Like, um, I think that one of the biggest things that I try to capture in my stories is friendship and the
Mhm.
importance of friendship. Almost more than like romantic relationships, it's the bonds between friends that really come forward, um, and just having that community, that tribe, that family that
Mhm.
supports you and sustains you through difficult times and good times and all of that. Um, just I feel it maybe even like feeling that connection with fictional characters is
Right.
always, it's like because I as a reader, that's what I do. Is like I feel like my favorite characters, my favorite books, they're like family to me, and
Right.
I go visit them when I'm feeling lonely or sad or whatever. It's like I just need to go hang out with this
Give
character.
give wisdom from them when I'm feeling a little
Exactly,
lost.
exactly. It's like let me just absorb your amazingness. um, yeah, so I think just like I love to create worlds that I would love to visit,
Mhm.
and I think that it's really rewarding to me when readers say that they've found kind of an escape or an enjoyment in those worlds as well.
Mhm.
That or or even like in the experiences of the characters and things like that. This, if they remind them of some things that they have experienced or gone through. Um, I write a lot of psychological things in my books, and I've had readers say that it was really moving for them to experience those similar kinds of things with the characters in the books.
Mhm.
Like just I don't know, just the I don't even know how to explain it. Like the compassion or whatever. Like,
Right.
oh, this is a part of the human experience,
Yeah.
and
The feeling of being seen.
mhm,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Which
exactly.
is hugely important with young adult
Mhm,
writing.
yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
especially when it is actually a young adult reading it, but,
Mhm,
also
yeah.
those older people like to read it
Right,
too, but
right,
they like
exactly.
to be seen just as much.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
So speaking of tribe and chosen family and friendship,
Mhm,
you mentioned earlier that you pitched at Superstars, and I'm
mhm.
wearing the Superstars
I saw it, I was like,
t-shirt today.
"Yay!" Mm,
Um, this is a limited edition.
mm.
Nobody got to go to Superstars in 2020, so it's really cool on the back, but I'm not going to turn around. So, for you as an author, what's the biggest benefit to Superstars?
Oh my gosh, the collective wisdom that you just it's like a fire hose that you're drinking the entire time. It's so amazing, and, like, the support and the enthusiasm and the it's like you like the first year that I went, I knew like one person, Gama. He's the one who got me to go, and I'd been to a workshop with Dave Farland, but like otherwise I didn't know anybody,
Right.
and just the feeling like I walked in there and like everybody was like instant like oh. We're here with you. We're here together,
Yes.
and it was like I belong. It was just a great feeling. And then you just learn so much about the craft, about the business, things that I never would have known otherwise.
Mhm.
It just it made me like realize that I had been doing a lot of things not the best way possible. It's like, oh, I published these books and now readers are magically going to find them because that always happens. And I was like, oh wait, I actually have to market. What? You mean I have to
This
do
is
something reflect,
actually the bane of all authors' existence.
right?
It doesn't matter whether you're indie or trad, like, you have
Exactly.
to market.
Exactly. And
Ugh.
I'm like, I hate marketing. And I'm like, wait, I'm not going to do that. My readers are magically going to find me. Yeah. So learning how to do that and just the ins and outs of um, the business side of it was, it's just life changing and career changing for me.
Yeah,
So I highly recommend it to anyone who's serious about, writing. I know I love being a nurse. I love my job, and I probably will continue being a nurse even if I were wildly successful as an author. But I really would love to be making a living as an author. So,
yes,
yes,
yes.
so that's my long term goal, and I know that I need the help of amazing mentors like I meet at Superstars to do that. So,
Right. So Superstars is every February. If that is interesting to you, my favorite part about Superstars is that we are a family. We call ourselves the tribe, but like we really are. We've gathered around each other and formed a family, and it doesn't just happen the week that we're there. It happens throughout the year, throughout the years. So if you're interested in that, you can go to my website, adrielwiggins.com/SSWS for Superstars Writing Seminars, and you can have a link to sign up. And also there is a discount code there, so you can get a certain percentage off. If you're watching this in 2021, then it's $100 off. So
awesome.
uh,
Yes, you need to
thank you.
go.
Thank you for hanging out with me tonight, Jen. It's
Thank
been
you
really
so
great
much.
having you,
I,
and can't wait for episode 3 of, Chaos
yes,
Beneath.
it'll be out soon. I'm almost done with it. So.
No, you're a nurse, you're fine. We understand this.
I
Some of
appreciate
us do.
it.
All right, we'll see you all later. Thank you.
Bye bye.